guys, welcome back to round 3 of using the Works PVA glue as a pouring medium. So we're just going to crack on. So I've done 2 techniques. I've done the flip cup and the tree room pour. Both have turned out successful, but I won't spoil anything. And we're going to do the final test, which is the Jackson Pollock acrylic pour. So this is where you just add on acrylic paint. Onto the canvas. You can have as much fun with this as possible. I tend to use a lot of black and white because they tend to be like the filter colours. You have to excuse as well, I'm dead sniffly because of hay fever. I have had to change some of the colours that I've been using just because I've just ran out. Nothing different or special, just because I ran out. You don't have to completely fill the canvas with this either, which is very tempting to do because you are going to move it. Black for luck. Put a little bit of white on the outside so it can move about. Once again, I am using my famous TTS white and black acrylic paints with the Artesia bright and vibrant colours. Ooh. Awesome. Right, there we go. I love that. I always love acrylic pours when it comes to the Jackson Pollock pour anyway. It does seem a bit extreme pouring off all the skins, but actually do more harm than good if you just leave it on the canvas. And obviously waste is something we want to be aware of and make sure that we don't have much of. All the pour off as well will be used for skins, and I will put this away somewhere to let it dry because actually the drying process has become very important when it comes to using this PVA glue. Well, I'll get into that eventually and let you know what actually happens on all those little funky bits and pieces. But for now, I'm going to leave it at this. I know it's a very short and sweet video, but I will come back to you and show you the other 2 pours in comparison with this pour and have a conclusion for you, because that is what we like on this channel. We like to do conclusions after doing some first impressions Right, apologies for the odd angle, but it's the only way I can actually get all the artworks in and to be able to show you. So it is now a day later. These are the 4 acrylic pours that I've done. I did only film 3 of them, but I have done the 4th one. I will upload it later on. And the reason for the 4th one is actually because this is the Jackson Pollock pour, but I'll get around to that. It's a whole story, don't worry. So very first one that we did is this acrylic pour. So I'll bring you over to give you a proper look. So as you can see, it has changed dramatically, but for the better. Look at all those cells that you can see throughout. The colour has disappeared as well, but I think it's just down to the ratio that I had my paints, which is just something to note when it comes to making sure it all looks okay and fabulous. And then the second one that we did was a tree room pour. So that one was the flip cup, and then the second one was a tree room pour. Again, all of the colour has disappeared, but there's a large variation of cells which are absolutely stunning. So it's not a bad one, but it's just so nice to have a look at properly. And then the third one was the Jackson Pollock acrylic pour. Basically, I think the floor was a little bit wonky, or I had a little bit too much paint on. It might have been a combination of both, but this completely changed. I still like elements of it, but it will be up for another repour once it's completely dry, because you can kind of see that side is still wet and it is still slightly thick, but it's something that can be easily sorted out by just doing another pour on top. And because I started to realise that one went a bit south, I did this one, which was the same technique, and it worked so much better. It has changed slightly because of the reaction of the cells, but I still really love the reaction that we've got out of it. And I have done another pour with the same colour scheme, which is just over here. This one's from this morning, and it actually has changed again because I think the glue likes to create a lot of cells. This one was on top of a textured background though, so I think that might be why. But I still really like it. Okay, so an overview of this Make and Create Clear PVA glue. I am going to be sticking with this for the long term. I mean, I don't have a choice anyway, but just working with it, I have found that it's very easy to create cells with, and the colours do stand out. Yes, I've got to make sure the ratios are correct, because otherwise the Artesia tends to just drop below and the TTS tends to come above the surface. So that's just something that I have to know when it comes to doing any sort of acrylic pour, mostly to do with the Infinity pour, the Jackson Pollock pour, which, you know, it's something we have to adjust to. The tree room pour and the flip cup one, I think, were just the ratios of the Artesia colours being slightly off, which again, that's just out of practice because I've been out of practice for so long. So I am going to continually use all this up. I've got a few surprises as well. I feel like I'm going to do all my colours because I actually do have a rather large collection to the side of me. I've also got another first impressions videos coming up of a new Artesia set, so stick around to see that because that is very exciting. But I've still got loads of mount boards and canvases to use to be able to experiment, and I want to be able to do this as much as possible because actually acrylic pouring, go through a process where you just have the bottle of PVA glue and pouring medium, and you go through this weird transaction where everything else is non-existent, and you just keep going until you have no PVA glue left, kind of like a stunt, and then you carry on with the rest of your art projects. But obviously there's a bit of drying time in between. But yeah, so extremely happy with this PVA glue. We'll have to use it very carefully when it comes to using colours because of the sinkage, if that's the right terminology word, of the colours tending to sink. But there is a way around it, making sure my ratios are correct, and also that they aren't going to be too overpowering. Make sure there's not enough white, make sure there's not too much white or black, and make sure I use more colour but using more PVA glue to allow it to spread and become one. But yes, don't use this PVA glue if you don't like cells. that's the main thing that I have to say about it. The skins that are coming off are just as good as the acrylic paint on the canvas, which is amazing, which is always nice to know. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this conclusion of using Make and Create PVA glue for acrylic painting, or acrylic pouring, should we say. If you guys have any questions, please leave in the comment section below. If you like, there's also linked in my description box to all my social medias and also my eBay selling account, which is where you'll find all my artworks I feature on my channel, plus a couple of extras. It's also my Patreon. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon, that'd be greatly appreciated. You can't do any of that, don't worry about it, I completely understand. Please just like and subscribe, because it does help me out in the long run, and obviously it doesn't cost you anything either other than your time. Yeah, thank you guys again. I shall see you later.